From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the News 8 Daily 8 Podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update.
Hi, I'm Kylie Conway, and this is your News 8 Daily 8 for Thursday, March 15th. We're going to be dry this morning, mostly cloudy skies. Some showers do return by around the lunch hour, a little after that. Then more widespread this afternoon and the later half of the day. Highs are going to get in the mid-50s. That's the good news. The winds are going to pick back up. Gusts approaching 30 to 40 miles per hour by tonight. And as far as tomorrow, obviously that's St. Patrick's Day. A lot of things going on outside. It's not going to be the greatest weather day. A few showers are going to hang around to start Friday. It's going to be a little chilly too, in the 30s, 40s maybe, into the afternoon hours. And the cold front then does go on eastward. Some breaking news this morning. The Pentagon released video of the incident I talked about here on the podcast in the air over the Black Sea. It was between a Russian fighter jet and a U.S. drone. The video is 42 seconds long. The Defense Department says the Russian aircraft approached the back of the drone over the Black Sea, then dumped jet fuel on it. The Pentagon says the Russian pilot made a second pass, hit the drone, and damaged the propeller. Russia's version of the events has been very different, claiming there was no direct contact. The U.S. ultimately ditched the drone in the sea. Moscow says it plans to find and retrieve the wreckage. Shipments of soil from a toxic train crash are once again headed to a landfill in Putnam County, Indiana. The EPA had paused the shipments from the Ohio train derailment to test the soil. A third party says it did not find harmful levels of dioxins in that soil. That's according to the Vice President of Heritage Environmental Services. As we've reported, the soil comes from the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. Experts say they must relocate the dirt to clean up the crash site. People living in Russellville voiced frustration at a recent public meeting about the shipments. Emotions there are still mixed. We spoke to Derek Wyatt, who grew up in the area and recently took over as the town's volunteer fire chief. He says landfill owners have a good track record, and he's willing to give them a chance.
Yes, it has to go somewhere. It's unfortunate that it's here. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but if not us, it's some other small town. Or I try to weigh both sides. It's hard to trust the media, social media, so I just go by life experience.
Heritage says Putnam County is one of the few places in the Midwest that is equipped to handle the toxic soil. So far, test results show the chemical levels are within the EPA standards for the landfill to accept. The FAA says it's time to ask difficult questions following a number of near misses on airport runways. The agency held a safety summit yesterday with industry representatives, labor groups, and aviation experts. There have been at least 7 close calls since the start of 2023, but none resulted in fatalities. The event is just the first in a sweeping review with the hope of improving aviation safety standards. One of the key issues of concern at the summit was staffing, particularly in air traffic control. The head of the Union for Air Traffic Controllers says there are 1,200 fewer controllers today than 10 years ago. 2 federal investigations are now looking into the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank. The AP reports the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Justice Department are both looking into the actions of the senior executives of the bank. The failure of SVB forced federal protections to kick in to make sure depositors did not lose their money. TikTok is shrugging off suggestions that it should split from the Chinese company that owns it. The practices of the social media company have already led several states and federal departments to ban the app on their computers. The Wall Street Journal this week reported that the Treasury Department is considering a wider ban unless the parent company ByteDance spins TikTok off. A spokesperson for TikTok says a sale would not help protect national security and that the U.S. should be protecting user data through third-party monitoring. And new data shows deaths of pregnant women in the U.S. are dropping drastically from a recent historic high. According to the CDC, more than 1,200 women died during pregnancy or shortly after childbirth in 2021. The agency says that is the highest rate in nearly 6 decades. Health officials say they're still working on the official tally for 2022, but preliminary data shows there were 733 maternal deaths. The CDC says that is on track with pre-pandemic levels. A Brownsburg husband and wife are now formally charged for their roles in the January 6th Capitol riot. The pair made their first appearance in federal court yesterday afternoon. Arthur and Jessica Rayer are each charged with felony civil disorder and 4 misdemeanors. Federal prosecutors released images from a video that they say shows the Rayers inside the tunnel leading to the Capitol building. Prosecutors say the Rayers were in the first wave of the rioters to enter the tunnel and eventually entered 3 times in a surge against police officers. Prosecutors say that the group was a mob that pinned an officer between a shield and a door, leading him to scream in pain. In court, the judge released Rayers without bond and told them to report to the U.S. Probation Office. A Fort Wayne man has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for sex trafficking of a minor. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Indianapolis says Damian Alexander first met the 17-year-old girl online in 2021. Prosecutors say Alexander had sex with her multiple times in Indianapolis area hotels. They say he also took sexually explicit photos of her and videos, and also of an adult friend, to use for online sex advertisements. According to federal prosecutors, Alexander made thousands of dollars from trafficking the victim. They say Indianapolis police found the girl at Sheraton Indianapolis Hotel at Keystone Crossing in June of 2021. They say Alexander was found outside the hotel. A Greencastle man is due in court this week, accused of biting his infant daughter so hard it left bruises. Online court records show Gavin Rogers faces charges for neglect and domestic battery. According to the probable cause affidavit, staff at Witham Hospital in Lebanon noticed the bruises during a routine appointment in November. Investigators say the 2-week-old baby had injuries on her shoulder, arm, knee, and both wrists. The affidavit says Rogers claimed he may have nibbled too hard. The documents show a nurse told police she witnessed Rogers call the baby evil. Rogers' first hearing is set for tomorrow morning at 8:30. A bill aimed at protecting your privacy is moving through the State House. Republican State Senator Liz Brown introduced the bill. It would let you demand a copy of the data that any company keeps on you. You'd also be able to opt out of any future data collection. The Attorney General would then handle any consumer complaints.
What we landed on is a really workable, everyone understands it. It's easy for the consumer to understand. It's easy for the AG's office to enforce, and it's easy for the businesses to comply with. And that's the key.
The bill passed the Senate unanimously last month and appears to have strong bipartisan support in the House. It's modeled after a law in Virginia, a move that supporters hope could lead consistent policies across the country.
We need companies to be able to respond effectively to these requests. And if we were to have 50 different models of legislation in the United States, it would be very, very hard for us to get the services we want and for companies to be able to provide that to us with that patchwork of laws.
A House committee discussed the bill yesterday but did not vote on it. It would take effect in 2026 if it becomes law. President Biden says he is intensely focused on lowering the price of health care. Biden highlighted efforts to tackle skyrocketing out-of-pocket prescription costs during a speech in Las Vegas yesterday. The efforts are a continuation of a law passed last year that capped insulin prices, made most vaccines free, and called for Medicare drug negotiations. The Department of Health and Human Services yesterday identified 27 drugs with prices that increased too quickly. The White House hopes it will motivate drug makers to lower the costs for those medications. If not, the White House says companies will be hit with inflation rebates for excessive price increases. Memphis Grizzlies guard Ja Morant is suspended without pay for 8 games. It's punishment for a live stream that showed Morant holding a gun in a Denver area nightclub earlier this month. He's not charged with a crime, but the league's commissioner says what Morant did was irresponsible, reckless, and potentially very dangerous. Morant has already sat out 6 games and will be eligible to return on Monday. The FTC is ordering Epic Games to pay $245 million to its games users. The agency accuses the maker of Fortnite of tricking users into making unwanted purchases. The FTC says Epic Games configured the game to allow players to press a single button and be charged. It says when customers disputed the charges, Epic Games would lock their accounts. The agency also accused the company of making it easy for children to make purchases without parental consent. Epic says players can get refunds several ways, including a cancel purchase feature for some of the items. And this morning, the Indiana Hoosiers are in New York for the NCAA tournament. Andrew Chernoff is giving us all access ahead of the matchup with Kent State.
Hello from Albany, New York, where the Indiana Hoosiers are already here, getting ready for their matchup on Friday against Kent State in the first round of the NCAA tournament. That game will tip off late on Friday at 9:55 p.m. inside this arena behind me. The Hoosiers, as we mentioned, are already here in New York State Capitol, getting ready for that big first round showdown. In fact, earlier today, we were at the team's hotel as the Hoosiers boarded a bus to go to a closed practice in preparation for Kent State. And all the Hoosiers on the roster say they're ready to get going.
It kind of really hasn't hit me yet that we're in the tournament, because, I mean, you grow up watching it every year. So I think just taking it all in and enjoying the moment, staying in the moment is going to be big, and taking it one game at a time.
I feel like when we play confident on offense, everything else is easy flowing. I mean, we're pretty good on the defensive end of the floor, but we can't play tentative. We can't pass up shots. We got to be confident. We worked on this. We worked to get to this moment. All throughout the summer, we were shooting shots, and we got a lot of good shooters on our team, and they just got to let it go.
March Madness is definitely in the air here in Albany, New York. You see signage all over the place, and the Hoosiers are ready to get going. We will have much more from IU tomorrow. That's because the Hoosiers, along with everyone else who's here, will have open practices and will speak to the media. We've got you covered throughout the day on Wish TV. For now, in Albany, New York, I'm Andrew Chernoff, Wish TV, wishtv.com, and like us on Facebook.
So Andrew is out in New York with Indiana. Angela Morian is with the Purdue Boilermakers in Columbus, Ohio. You can catch their live reports on News 8 on Wish TV throughout the March Madness runs of both teams. The annual greening of the canal is going to have some changes this year. Typically, each year, the downtown Indy Canal is dyed green to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. But this year, organizers say the pump that operates the fountain in the canal is undergoing some mechanical issues, so it is not working. It's not going to be used in today's celebration like normal. Instead, there will still be that ceremonial pouring of the dye like normal, but that's really not what colors the canal green. It's that fountain. Nonetheless, that ceremonial pouring of the dye will happen at 5 o'clock this evening.
The Indianapolis 500 is our mecca. It's our Super Bowl.
It's the largest single-day sporting event in the world, so it's a crowd like no other. And it's a very tough race to win.
I still have butterflies, still get nervous before the start.
This place chooses the winner every time, and you gotta earn it.
That's the sound of a new 6-part miniseries, 100 Days to Indy. IndyCar and CW Sports released the trailer yesterday. The series takes race fans behind the scenes as drivers begin the IndyCar season and the sprint toward the Indy 500. You can watch the whole trailer right now on wishtv.com. It's right at the top of our homepage in the As Seen on Wish TV section. Full episodes premiere April 27th on Wish TV. And finally, to business headlines, nervous bank customers have rushed to the safety of big banks in the wake of a pair of high-profile bank failures that have shaken confidence in the system. Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Citigroup have all gotten billions in extra deposits since the bank chaos began last week. Bank of America has raked in more than $15 billion in new deposits in the span of just days. Gold is up 5.5% since the beginning of the year and has gotten momentum as global banks have faltered. Glint Pay CEO Jason Kozin says the problem is that banks only have a fraction of what people have in accounts ready to be withdrawn, and too many people at once wanted to take money out. Kozin says over the long run, gold keeps its purchasing power and can be a store. Federal regulators approved Canadian Pacific's $31 billion acquisition of Kansas City Southern. It's the first major railroad merger in 20 years. The merger of the two railroads will create the only railroad linking Canada, Mexico, and the United States and carry auto parts and farm goods. American Airlines is testing new, faster internet on international flights. It will test it on the flights between Dallas to London. The faster internet uses satellites and comes as passengers demand to stay connected in flight. This has been your News 8 Daily 8 for Wish TV. I'm Kylie Conway, online at wishtv.com, and follow us on Facebook when you search Wish TV.
This is the News 8 Daily 8 podcast with Wish TV's Kylie Conway. A Wish TV News 8 update on demand for even more on demand and on the go. Connect with Wish TV on Facebook at wishtv.com and on the free Wish TV mobile app. Thank you for listening. And be sure to like, subscribe, and follow this podcast for updates every weekday morning on the All Indiana Podcast Network and wherever you get your podcast.